All right, we're coming back together. Thanks, you guys. It's so hard to stop you from talking. I'm glad that there have been such good connections made. But we do have a few more things to cover before we leave, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We get to start this afternoon. You've probably seen wristbands. Not masks, wristbands. Hopefully people are wearing wristbands. And I get to introduce Bonnie Woodrick, who is the founder of I Understand Love Heals. And she's gonna take a few minutes to talk to us about the wristbands and how we can make a difference in the stigma of mental health care and suicide.
Hi, first of all, I want to thank Kristen because she's amazing. I've known her for many, many years, and her passion behind mental health just warms my heart, and her ability to bring it here into a church is so meaningful, and I hope it's impactful to you. I feel honored and privileged to be here today. I'm Bonnie Woodrick, the founder of I Understand, nonprofit organization that supports those that have lost a loved one to death by suicide or are living with a mental brain health illness. Kristen heard about our wristband project and wanted to bring it here today, and it's so important because so many of us deal with unseen illnesses or pain. And what do we do with it? They're hidden. People don't know. But the importance of connecting in connection with each other based on our lived experiences and our stories can bond us, and it can help us find other people that may have a similar story and support each other. And that's what I Understand is about, is building a community of support. So think about, how did it feel when you knew you had to put a wristband on your wrist that showed kind of what you went through? So I have pink. I could have had the whole rainbow on because I have been affected by all of those disorders. But for me personally, I deal with anxiety. I don't like to speak. I get very, very anxious and nervous, and that's why I have pink stress balls. I usually have one in my hand all the time to help distract my brain. But the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. And I have pink for suicide loss. I lost my husband 18 years ago to depression. It was something that we didn't talk about. It was swept under the rug, but I wanted to talk about it. So I can see people today with pink wristbands on, and I'm so sorry for the loss that you have endured. If you struggle with anxiety or living with someone, we want to be able to help and support you and know that there's a community that's out there. One of my biggest passions is changing the conversation to reduce stigma, as stigma is a #1 reason why people don't reach out for help. So from changing the definition from one who intentionally kills themselves to an updated, more accurate version of an effect of mental brain health illness or pain. Pain is the common denominator of all suicides. 54% of those that die by suicide do not have a diagnosed mental health illness. Yet 90% die from depression or have depression. So that's why it's my passion to talk more about the illness rather than the act. So I can say my husband died from depression, and we can have such a different conversation. Because when I say depression, we can talk about the illness and the effects that that illness can have, and we have to start recognizing that pain, the common denominator of all suicide, can cause depression. Where does that pain come from? That pain comes from bullying, isolation, physical pain, grief, financial devastation, heartache, things that we've all experienced. So I encourage you today, if you know someone that's experiencing pain, reach out. If you're experiencing pain, please know that the world is a much better place with you in it than without you. And help is available 24/7. National hotline. Please, on your way out, grab a resource book. We have a lot of information on there, but I'm going to leave you with 3 questions. 1, why is the brain the only organ in our body that is stigmatized when it fails or is in pain? Why do we talk more about the act than we do the illness? And why do we judge mental health illnesses yet grieve suicide? Think about all of those things, because you have the power to change and answer every single one of those questions if you believe the accurate way to talk about mental brain health illness and depression. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. She's very good at what she does, isn't she? And as one of the things that stood out to me the first time I did this wristband project was we don't talk a lot about the things that affect us. People may know what we are personally going through, but not necessarily what our family is all going through. And I think that there's a lot of people with a lot of wristbands on, and it's really okay that we talk about it together, because the more we can share with each other, the more we can help solve some of these concerns. So that's why I love the wristband project so much. And now we're gonna have Jen come back up, and she's gonna help us figure out what we have as take-homes for today.
So I got to start with a practice. We're not going to be quiet or silent this time, but look around this room. We're here in community, right? And we've done a lot of listening, and so we're going to do a very short practice of a little bit of reflection and a little bit of engaging each other. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a couple invitations of sharing with a partner. So I'm going to, in a second, ask you to stand up and find someone that you didn't come with, maybe that you know well or not, whatever, but not someone that you came with. And I'll invite us to respond for a minute and a half with whatever comes to mind. And the other person just listens. It is a gift to be heard and listened to. And then after a minute and a half, we'll swap, and it'll be your turn to respond to the same question and just be heard. And then we'll find another partner, and so I have a couple of those, and so for the next few minutes, that's our closing practice of practicing what we do, right? Cindy said relationships are huge, so we are not alone. All right, first invitation, if we can, yep. So I'm going to set the timer. I'll let you know when your minute and a half is done. But first one is, what is one thing that caught your attention today? Something that surprised you, challenged you, inspired you. Whatever comes to mind. Go. All right, finish your sentence and then find another partner, please. All right, good. Mingling around again, finding someone different. Awesome. Okay, second invitation. Say something about how you arrived this morning and how you feel like you're departing as we close. All right, go. All right, finish up and then one final person. So one more, last one, move around one more time. All right, are we with new people? Looks like, okay, last invitation. What is one intention or hope you have? Without everything we've heard and taken in and let speak to our lives, name one intention or hope. It could be something general, or it could be something specific you want to put into practice. All right, thank you all. You can wrap up and have a seat again. Well, sometimes just even asking a friend or someone around you to just listen, even for a minute and a half, right? We voiced ourselves for a minute and a half, and waiting and watching, I'm like, that felt quick and long sometimes, all at the same time. So anyway, and thank you for that. Now we are going to have Steve Bergman come up, and he is the Executive Director of NAMI here in Kent County, and he's going to share about who they are and what they do.
Thank you, Jen.
Yep.
Well, as Jen said, I'm Steve Bergman. I have the honor and the privilege of serving as Executive Director for NAMI Kent County. This is a brand new position, and my job is to figure out what an Executive Director does. And so I'm struggling with that right now. But we at NAMI, we believe that we can impact this whole area with education, support, and advocacy. And so we have a number of educational programs that we do. We have programs that are designed for people who live with a mental illness diagnosis called peer-to-peer. It's an 8-week class, and it's led by people who live with a mental illness diagnosis. So been there, done that, been in your spot, understand what you're going through much better than I would, who have not gone through it or something like that. We also have support groups for peers, for people who live with mental illness, and again, led by people with lived experience. And so very impactful. We have both in-person and online. We even have a collaboration with Lansing and Traverse City so that if you can't make it to one of ours, you can get online and join one of theirs. And so that gives you about 8 to 12 options instead of just a couple. We also think it's incredibly important to not forget the families of those who live with mental illness, because those families are impacted as well to a very big degree, right? And so we have family education classes called Family to Family, again, led by people who love people with mental illness, led by people who have been there and done that. You know, what's amazing about this wristband project is how many people have so many different colors, and almost everybody has at least one, right? And at every class I've ever been to, it's always like, wow, we thought we were alone. We thought we were the only ones who had a child with schizophrenia or bipolar or a spouse with depression, and it's just not true. And coming to a class like that, you meet other people, you bond, you develop support, and you realize you're not alone. And none of us are alone. You know, statistically, 1 in 5 people are going to deal with a mental illness this year. 1 in 5. Look around the room. How many people are going to deal with that statistically, right? And every one of those people have families and friends who care for them. So we think it's incredibly important to have educational programs for families and also support groups for families. And again, we have both in-person and online support groups in collaboration with Lansing and Traverse City. We also have some programs that we do called Ending the Silence, for example, where we go to schools, middle school and high school, and talk to the students, talk to the teachers, talk to the parents in 3 different sessions about mental illness and about, you know, not being afraid to ask for help and not being afraid to seek help when they need it. 2 of our really big initiatives this year, one is reaching out to minority communities. If you look around this room, you won't see any minorities. A couple of reasons. 1, we haven't done a very good job of reaching out. And 2, culturally, they resist coming for help, asking for help. And so one of our big priorities is reaching out to those communities, both the African American and Hispanic, but also Native American communities in Grand Rapids and that area. The other thing that we're really excited about is we have a conference coming up in August. And if you stop by our table in the back and grab one of these save the date cards, it's August 26th, 27th. It's an interfaith group just like this one is. It will be 2 days long. It will be part of a national conference. NAMI National is sponsoring this, and we will, every local affiliates all over the country will be sponsoring a conference on those 2 days. So we'll have national speakers on tape, and we'll also have some great local speakers. And the emphasis is going to be on the link between religion or spirituality and mental illness, mental wellness, your mental health. And you know, we're just really, really pleased to have some great local people who will be able to speak at our conference. And one of those is here with us today. It's Dr. Kate Finley, who's a professor at Hope College, philosophy professor, and has also done a lot of research on the link, the connection between faith, between religion or faith and mental wellness or mental illness. So I've asked Kate to just step up and just tell us a little bit about her work.
Hi, everyone. So I'll keep this brief. Also, too, for email purposes afterwards, the last name is actually Finley, which is totally fine. I think 50% of my students spell it that way. So yeah, I'm a professor at Hope College, and I've been doing a lot of research with some colleagues in psychology and communications about interactions and how people understand the relationship between mental disorder and mental illness and their faith. For a lot of people, many people have mental disorder, and many people, their religious identity is an important part of who they are. So just a couple highlights from this research, and a lot of this has come up in the sessions that I've been in. So we've done lots of interviews, extended interviews and questionnaires, and overwhelmingly, one of the big things that came up were that people found it really harmful when their faith communities over-spiritualized their mental disorder, right? So by that I mean thinking that mental disorder has primarily spiritual causes and also primarily spiritual treatments. So you have depression because you don't pray enough, right? Or if you just confess your sin, then God will heal your depression. Kind of unsurprisingly, people have found that really harmful, really stigmatizing. So that's one end, kind of over-spiritualizing. But then on the other end, a lot of participants reported that they just felt like their church or their faith community didn't address mental disorder or mental illness at all. I think sometimes in reaction to the over-spiritualization, people swing all the way to the other side and are like, okay, you have mental disorder, mental illness, go outside the church to get treatment, which is really good, but then we're just not going to address it again. And people who were in those communities had this deep hunger for wanting to address it more within their church and talk about what it means to have mental disorder and to be religious. So anyways, those were two ways that people found their faith or religious experience to be pretty harmful to their mental health. But then there's this sweet spot where faith and religious communities can play a really positive role as well. And so some things that we found there that are really powerful are when people acknowledge mental disorder or mental illness as potentially having both biological and psychological components, but also potentially spiritual components, kind of having both of those layers without saying, oh, that means God gave you a mental disorder, or oh, that means it's due to your sin, right? There's a way to kind of hold both those things together. And then the other thing too is just being much more open about the really harmful effects of mental disorder on someone's faith, right? One thing we found a lot was it exacerbated people's sense of guilt, their sense of abandonment by God. But then, on the other hand, a lot of people highlighted benefits that they felt came out of their mental disorder towards their faith. So kind of going hand in hand with the focusing on gratitude video that we saw earlier. And so people would report, some big ones were increasing their sense of empathy, increasing their sense of connection to God and God's presence. And again, acknowledging those benefits without saying the mental disorder itself is positive or God gave someone, right? You can still pull those elements of gratitude out of it. So then this last piece too that we've been doing a lot of is gathering people's stories, because that's a really powerful way to convey this. Just hearing people's firsthand experiences with their faith and their mental disorder. So that's a lot of what we're doing this summer, and just throwing it out there in case people are interested in that or getting more involved, definitely email me or email Lisa and Steve at NAMI. But yeah, we're kind of connecting with a lot of churches in the area doing some of this research. So thanks for listening.
I think that it's encouraging to hear that maybe at our congregation we fall in the middle. So we're doing some good things here to acknowledge mental health and use our faith as a benefit. And we have Susan is going to talk just a little bit about, here we go, the mental health fund that we're supporting here.
So I am on staff at Westminster Presbyterian Church, and hopefully we are a place where we can talk about mental health and we can talk about mental illness and mental disorders in a way that's helpful and do no harm, or at least try not to do more harm, right? So this booklet, hopefully some of you have seen it. There are some out on the table as you leave. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this mental health referral panel and the fund that goes along with it. So back in, 2013, we gathered together some of our mental health professionals within Westminster and a couple other folks in our staff to put together a list of mental health professionals that we felt confident referring congregational members to, or anyone that we happen to be in discussion with. So there's a list of 23 therapists or mental health professionals in this booklet. And then also that goes along with that, and what came out of that when we shared this with our congregation, that we had this panel available, is that 2 families stepped forward and created the Barbara Mohawk and Callum Mcfeeders Mental Health Fund. And the story of Barbara Mohawk is that she died by suicide. And her son, John, who is part of our community at Westminster, wanted to do something to remember his mother, and wanted to make sure that people that were struggling that with mental illness, mental disorder, that were searching healing and wholeness, that money wouldn't be a barrier. So he was part of creating that fund. And then the other family, the Mcfeeders family, Callum Mcfeeder, sadly died shortly after his birth, and his parents, Heidi and Scott, well, actually, Scott sought therapy after that, and the therapy created just another layer of pain to his grief. And so they stepped forward too and said, hey, let's promote this, because people need help, and we need to, again, promote that healing and wholeness. So that fund is available to anyone, so you don't have to be associated with Westminster. So if you know someone that needs financial assistance, please contact myself or Jen Porter, so we can help you with that. And John Mohawk is the founder of the Shine a Light on Mental Health Foundation. And last year and this year, the foundation for the month of May is matching dollar for dollar any donation up to $25,000. So if you would like to make a donation, there is the QR code, but I'm reminded that not everybody uses a QR code. So there's also a basket if you want to, for cash or check or what have you. And again, it's a free will offering if you feel so inclined to do that. But your dollars will be matched for the month of May. So thank you.
Wait a minute. Trinity is really, really excited to have this fund as well, and just so grateful that it is available to everyone, even outside of the congregation, which is what we're trying to connect and do here. And so we wanted to make a donation too, from the health ministries.
Thank you. It's not always about numbers, but sometimes it is. But that we have been able to distribute $100,000 since the inception of the fund. So that indicates the need is there, and we want to know about the need, and we want to help as we can. And it's through the generosity of folks that have been so impacted by mental health and the pain that it can cause. But thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now it is me, and I'm the last one, and we're almost done. Just a huge thanks. So Karina, Jen, Susan, and I coordinated this, and they are just amazing people to work with. We had so much fun creating this. And our health ministries team at Trinity and the mental health team at Westminster were key in supporting us as well. All of our presenters, you probably didn't get a chance to see everybody since we had breakout sessions, but all of our presenters just came with amazing information and wonderful passion to help with mental health and mental illness. And all of our resource partners, I was loving watching you guys out there connecting with each other's organizations. So not only are we connecting with each other in our congregations, but the organizations that are supporting us as well. Our Standing Together partners, we created this for all of our organizations, and the Kaufman Institute is a really great way to connect if you want to do more things with interfaith friends. You were the most important people to thank, because if you were not here, this would not be as rich and as valuable as it is. So thank you for being here. I would close with a blessing. This came from Reverend Susan Gregg Schroeder. And she had significant depression in her life, and she set up a mental health organization, which is of a different name now, and I apologize for not knowing that. But it's an interfaith closing blessing and prayer. So if you would like to join with me however you want. Loving Creator, we come to you today because we know you are a God of love and compassion. We come as people of all creeds, all nations, seeking your presence, comfort, and guidance. We come as consumers, family members, friends, co-workers, and mental health professionals. We come this day because we believe that you, Divine One, love each of us just as we are, and you walk with us on our individual journeys of life. You see the ignorance and injustice that divides and separates persons struggling with mental illness, and you weep with us. Give us courage to face our challenges and open us today to the many ways you are already working in our midst. Help us to identify mental illness as the disease it is, that we might have courage and wisdom in the face of ignorance and stigma. Inspire us as we seek to overcome fear, acquire knowledge, and advocate for compassion and entitled treatments and services. Lead us as we open our hearts and homes, our communities and job opportunities, our houses of worship and communities of faith. Enable us to find ways to be inclusive of persons living with mental illness in our everyday lives. Be with doctors, therapists, researchers, social workers, and all those in helping professions as they seek to overcome the ignorance and injustice with care and compassion. Sometimes, Divine Spirit, we feel discouraged and hopeless in the face of so many challenges. Help us to see ourselves as you see us, persons of value and worth, persons of creativity and potential. May we come to understand the interconnectedness of mind, body, and spirit, and bringing about health and wholeness. And may we go forward into our communities with a renewed sense of vision, hope, and possibility for the future. Amen. And thanks again for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your week.